I've come up with a novel solution in regards to the floor or the balcony on the outside. So what's happened is the balcony, do you like that? The balcony is leaking. The insurance company refused to classify it as part of the apartment, believe it or not. So I'm left to sort of an issue where we've got to sort the outside before they will come in and do any work on the inside of the property. So I've come up with a solution, which is to take out we've got 300 by 300 flags or paving stones or whatever you want to call them, which sit on top of the membrane. I'll do a video outside in a minute. And so we've got to remove all of the membrane underneath. I found a proprietary system, which is, I think it's a garden gravel tray, and we're going to put those on top of the flags. But because it is at 45 degrees, or whatever the angle is, I'm going to have to determine that, cut these trays so that they can sit on an angle on top of the on top of the membrane, and then the flags go on top of them. So hopefully it'll help with the drainage issue that we're having. Membrane's failed and the water levels are coming around to this point here. So this is all under the subfloor. That's got to come out. Which means everything else in the apartment's got to come out. I've gone onto B&Q's website and I've found these trays, which are going to sit on top of this membrane here. All of this has got to come out, all the gravel's got to be removed, everything else. So I'll put the name and the link to these in the video. So I've got these, and obviously we've got these joints here. So these are the ones that I'm cutting. These all click together. They're a proprietary system, so they click together. So I'm using a thing called a sliding bevel. I'm going to get the angle of you can see the joint there anyway, so I'm just laying that parallel, and this is how you get an angle for something. So you keep that square with that there. This has got to be cut from this point to that point. Obviously this ties in with that one over there. It's a clickable system, so you can see the lugs there, and there's a lug here, so that will click in and hold everything in place. So I'm just going to determine the angle here using a sliding bevel. So you put that there. As you can see, it is in line with that angle. Okay, so that's not the first one, because obviously I've got to cut some here as well. So this is going to be the first one, which is not going to be cut, but as you can see there, we've got a small piece which goes in there. So we might have to cheat this forwards a little bit so that we can cover this, and that will be cut at that angle there, and the other one will come up to here and be cut. Let me just get one out of the box so you can see it. So this one will be cut at this angle here. I'm going to weld them together, and that will form the first part of the joint. And then obviously there's got to be one cut for, let's move that bevel out of the way, another one cut for there. So you can see I'm going to have quite a few cuts to make to get this to work, and that goes all the way up to there. So obviously once you've got this, excuse me, we've got a Ryobi chop saw over here. We're going to set the angle of the Ryobi chop saw and then cut those pieces. I've got a system inside that I'm going to use to weld them together. I'll show you that later on. And I've just got to make the cuts for this angle here, and then over here I've got to make the cuts for these pieces that go here. So it's going to be quite interesting. Once they're done, all of this is going to be lifted up, and it's going to be relayed. It's going to be slightly different, but at least we're going to have the joints being supported there, and also the joints being supported here as well. This matting is going to go down. The flags or paving stones are going to go on top of this, and that joint there is going to be supported all the way through, and we're also going to have a new membrane going down. All these plants and everything else have got to be moved, but I'm just preparing for when the contractors come. All that will click together. I might have to make a small piece in the middle to go there for support, and hopefully that'll be the end of it. Okay, so what I'm doing now, I've got the angle. This is what's known as a sliding bevel. You'll have to excuse if you can't see me. So we put this on the fence of the chop saw. I should take another photograph so you can see that. And then we alter the angle of the chop saw to match the angle of this cut, so that we can cut these pieces over here. Okay, I'm ready to start doing the cutting now. So with any equipment that you have, this is a Ryobi chop saw, right? Just be familiar with all of the parts of the saw, okay? Ensure that everything is clamped down as much as possible. Be careful with your fingers. If you're not happy to use something like this, then I suggest you get someone else in to do it for you, and ensure that the power cable's out of the way as well. So make sure that's around the back, routed around the back. As you can see here, it's still by the blade, but that's going to be routed out of the way, just so that you don't catch it, and then it's going to go to the power supply. So that's set at the right angle now. Just be careful with this bit of kit. Make sure you know what you're doing. It shows there, keep your hands out the way, and ensure that the guard is working and that you've got an extractor on there. Don't forget to put on ear protectors, and also goggles as well. Protect your eyes. So as you can see, this is the first cut. I need to ensure that I've got the other side to come to it, and then I'm going to weld them together, see how it goes. Okay, so hopefully you can see me down here. Well, you won't be able to see me, but you can see that now I've got two pieces. I'm using this, which is a plastic repair hot tool. Yep. And now I'm going to weld these two pieces together. So I bought it off Amazon. It's called a plastic welder. You put your staples in here, and bearing in mind it is quite safe to use, but it can get up to a high temperature, so make sure you keep your finger off the trigger. Push the two pieces together, push the trigger, and there you go. That's a staple in place. Let's push that down a little bit more. Push the trigger. Eats the staple and heats the staple and staples it together, so you can see it's coming together now. So we'll do this a few more times. Another one there. That doesn't get hot actually, so that's a good thing. Push the staple right in. Excuse me. So we've got two tiny holes which hold the staple. Make sure that's pushed in properly. Go to the next section you want to weld. Push the trigger. Be a little bit firm with it. Push the staple in.
So at this point I started to realize that I had to remove everything and change the layout and try and reflect what was going on the surface itself. And you know, initially I was trying to cut the smaller piece, or avoid cutting the smaller piece that you can see in the middle, but it turns out that I did have to put those pieces in, otherwise the whole way that the garden trays were going to be laid out was going to have compounding errors as we moved further and further away from the corner. I thought it was going to be quite a straightforward process just to set up the sliding bevel and you know, cut the garden trays to one particular angle, but as they say in Staffordshire, many a slip between the cup and the lip, as these didn't necessarily work out that way. So each cut had to be done individually, as you could not get the reciprocal cut from just merely flipping over the garden tray and cutting the other side. So that's why I've started again and moved them around. As you can hopefully see, I've had to adjust them once again. It wasn't good enough just to leave them where they were, as I could see that the error was compounding, so I've had to take them apart again and cut them exactly to how the flags are laid out underneath. Eventually these will sit on top of the garden trays, the flags will, but to get the desired result, I assumed that the flags were cut in a symmetrical way, equal on each side in regards to how they needed to be laid on the ground, but they were all cut individually, and so I've had to cut the garden trays to suit each individual flag. So there was no real consistent angle. It was something that had to be determined as I worked through the project. Okay, so as you can see from this part of the video, I'm nearly there now. I've just got the last 4 pieces to cut, really. The reason why I keep picking them up and moving away is that obviously you can see I'm adjusting it so that the final piece will actually fit together. I was trying to keep this true to the angle of the flags which are underneath, but came to the conclusion that as long as I got my matting correct in regards to as close to the angle as possible, then once the flags went on top, any minor variation are going to be hidden under the flags anyway. The only thing I had to do is, I don't know if you can see it there, that piece that was on top, you've got a lot of lugs which are underneath, little lugs or supporting pieces which are underneath the mat. So it was important to ensure that there were sufficient amount of these lugs sticking up, so that once the flags are placed on top, that it wasn't going to collapse and fall inwards. I'll see if I can put an image up here of the lugs, so that you get a better idea of what I mean by lugs, or little upstands, or little, they're not feet, they're basically I suppose you can imagine like stalactites coming down and sitting on top of the membrane to support.
For the last leg of this side. The next step is to weld these joints together and work my way along and ensure that everything is square so I can take it all apart. So that is the next step. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be as close as I can get it. So this is going to be just welding now using this. This is purchased, and we have these little babies that go into it. So they go like that. Brush them in the end. Make sure you're happy where things are going to go. You can undo them, don't get me wrong. You know, you can go back and just adjust a little bit. It's nice to get it right the first time though. You just push that in, push the trigger, it eats up and it melts in like that. So that's one done. So I'm going to do the rest and go from there. I'll do one more actually, just let that settle a little bit. What you find is the tip of this gun doesn't get hot, so don't press the trigger unless you're completely ready. And then you get a pair of pliers and then you cut them off, obviously once they've sunk in a little bit to the depth that you want. You just lift that off and keep going.
Okay, so on this bit I'm just going to talk you through what I'm doing here. I found it quite important, to be honest, to be able to ensure that everything is welded in one place on the floor as opposed to putting them on a bench. I did do some of them after that where I did re-weld them, but initially I tacked them while they were on the floor. Tacking is where you just put a few in place to hold it, to hold them where they are, so that when you do take everything apart, you're not going to lose the or mix up the order in which the tiles or the garden trays should be together. They're a right and left-handed pair, and there are two sides. There's a left side and the right side, and so as you can see there now, you can see the different heat settings on the heat gun, and so you've got medium, low and high, and it's a really good bit of kit. You know, you just charge it up with a USB-C charger, and well, it did everything that I needed to get done there. So also as well, you've got the two prongs which are sticking down. They don't get hot, they only heat up the staples once the staples are pushed in into the prongs that you can see there. Yeah, I think that's all there is to say on this particular bit. Just take your time, ensure that you do not burn yourself, and that everything's welded properly. The other thing is, I would say, is don't push too hard. If you do, you'll go all the way through the garden trays. I tried to weld in places where there was a lug or feet, and this is to ensure that you get better penetration of the staples at that point. If you go through the thinner bit, which you can see which forms the pattern, I think that's something like 4 or 5 millimeters thick, whereas if you find where the actual legs are or upstands, they're about 7 millimeters thick, so you get better penetration with the staple, and they hold better as well. So I'm just going to continue to finish welding these off, and that's it.
Alright folks, this is the, where are we? Oh, you can see me alright, last little bit, right. So I've done all of the bits, and basically I've used the welding gun to weld things together. So now I'm just going to go over the rest of them over here on the table. This is the welding gun, by the way. Put it there. And this is the brand, so if you want to look it up on Amazon, you can find it on there. And yes, that's what I've been using. I haven't got a mic with this, so hopefully it's picked up okay. And I'm just going to crack on with these now, so I'm just going to go fast forward, do the rest of them. I think I've got about 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 to do, so I'm just going to do those very quickly, just go over them again so you can see them, and that's it.
Okay, so this is the final bit. Basically, you just weld everything together, put in as many in as you feel necessary, just to stabilize things. There might be slight gaps, but that won't be seen once the flags go on top. Thank you.
Alright, the last thing you have to do when all that is done is get a pair of pliers and cut off all the long tails, really. So you can see that there. Yeah, just need to cut off all of those, and that's it. Alright, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.